If you've ever felt envious, angry, jealous, or worried, this episode right here is for you. We're going to talk about ways to get past that. I love talking about this stuff, and I promise you after this one, it'll help you out. I'm Rickey Jasper, and this is the Chasing a Greater Vision podcast. After getting laid off 2 times in 6 months, I realized I had to be chasing a greater vision in my life. I had to be walking into my calling. I spent time building up a successful fitness apparel business, and then now stepping back in front of camera to talk, to speak more, to hopefully inspire you to chase a greater vision in your life. And my goal with this podcast is for us to do it together, so let's make it happen. Hi, I'm Rickey Jasper, and welcome back to the Chasing a Greater Vision podcast. We have a great one for you today. We're going to talk about how to let go of envy, anger, ego, worry. All of these things plague me in areas of my life, and they have plagued me in areas of my life. The reason why I talk about them while going through the process is because, one, I want to be transparent, and two, we are not perfect people, so we are constantly growing. We'll constantly have areas where we feel like we have it mastered, and then something else will hit, and then we have to figure it out again. And when it comes to envy, anger, ego, and worry, these things are daily things that we deal with in certain aspects. So, in letting go of them, it's going to be a constant letting go process. I think of it like this. If you go and you twist your ankle, right? And you figure out how to get some sort of treatment for it. Your ankle is going to be healed again, but you might twist your ankle again, right? And that's how some of these issues in life are. Just because we have it mastered, just because we are healed from certain things, doesn't mean it won't happen again. I've learned a lot from my experiences of failing heavily and really doing some self-learning. So I'm going to talk about that and be very open, vulnerable, transparent with all of that today. So we are going to get into our first segment. This is our head and heart hits. Again, we have an author for this one. I usually go through and I read a quote and I'm like, the author's unknown. I found it on Instagram. But today, similar thing from one of my favorite people to follow on Instagram, Stephen Bartlett. This quote is from him. Envy prevents you from working on yourself. Anger prevents you from seeing clearly. Ego prevents you from learning from your mistakes. Worry prevents you from seizing opportunities. Until you learn to control it, human nature prevents you from living. These things, envy, anger, ego, worry, some of these things are designed to protect us. So when we're angry, we are in fight or flight. We want to do something and react, but it prevents us from actually seeing things clearly because we're so locked in. And I thought about these things. I was like, wow, areas in my life that I haven't been the best at, I've really acted impulsively. Whether I was envious, I acted impulsively. Angry, same thing. My ego took over, or where I was worried, I just acted impulsively in order to feel some level of safety. I have a great therapist, and the one thing that we talk about and the one thing that she really shows me is she's like, when you make impulsive actions, you're doing them so you can try to feel some false level of safety, because safety isn't always your safest thing. Focusing on what you're reacting to and how you're trying to become safe, if you key in on that, that gives you a baseline for how you can change your actions in that moment. In that moment where you realize, okay, I'm about to act impulsively, that gives you an opportunity to change your action. You change your action over time in that impulse wavelength. You're going to create new neural pathways. You're going to create new opportunities to grow and have better habits. So we are going to step right into it with our tips and tricks. And this one's going to be an interesting one because it's going to be a tip and a trick for each one. So we're going to go down the list of envy, anger, ego, and worry. And I'm going to talk about something of where I've been in those. I'm going to be very transparent, and then how to combat that. So the first one is of how to let go of envy. My definition, the Rickey definition, is looking at what somebody else has, what they do, being jealous or wanting what they have. And sometimes you want what they have, but you don't know what they've been through to get there. And it's a lot of comparison that happens. So for me, when I started running 413 Apparel 5-6 years ago, we didn't have a lot of resources, and I felt like there were other apparel companies from, people in the fitness industry that I knew or knew of, and I felt like they just had all the resources, right? and they were building these massive multi-million-dollar apparel companies. I felt like they had all the connection, all the money, all the people. I felt like they had it on easy street. And it was interesting because it wasn't until I started to really almost reverse engineer, what if I was given that, right? So if you in your life look at what you're envious of and you're like, well, what if I was given that? How would you be able to handle it? At the time, it was myself, and it might have been 4 other people that were working on the brand. Not everybody's full-time. We're just doing part-time work. We don't have the business aspect of it established in the sense of like, we're not paying payroll, 401k. It's like I'm Venmoing, right? And so I sat back and I was like, wait, I'd have to really build some infrastructure. I'd really have to put management in place, teams in place. I'd have bigger expenses. I'd had all these things. And then I became overwhelmed, and then I wasn't envious anymore because I was like, wow, that's a lot of problems and issues that I don't have, even though I don't have what I deem as the quote unquote blessing that they have. And I think it's interesting if we think of relationships on social media. It's like there's this thing like relationship goals and this and that. And it's like when you see people's pictures of the happy whatever, sometimes you don't know what they're going through on a day-to-day. You don't know what they struggle with internally. You don't know the constructive arguments and criticisms that they have internally. Even when it comes to kids and all of these other things, it's like you envy this life, but it's like the amount of responsibility someone might have is huge, right? And so if you're envious, you're taking somebody else's outside and you're comparing it to your inside. And it's just not a good barrier. So to let go of that is to, for me, a tactic that I've used is I've looked at something and I've tried to reverse engineer all of the things that could potentially go into it. And if there are responsibilities and if there are things that I'm like, wow, I'm really not ready for and I really don't want to do, it dials back the envy. Because then I'm like, wait, I can actually look at my situation, look at my current responsibilities, look at where I'm at, and I can start to appreciate that I don't have some of the things that go into creating this thing. I used to look at other people's podcasts and I was like, man, that's crazy. And then I'm like, wait, they have 3 or 4 cameramen, they have this and that, they are, always coordinating, and they have to have outreach, they have to do all these things. And I was like, do I have time to do that? No, I don't. So let me sit back and let me stay in my lane for lack of a better term. So that is how you let go of envy. That is how you let go of comparison. That's just one way. There's so many other ways. There's so many other things out there. Those are ways that have helped me. And so you all know I'm very transparent. I am not a, clinical psychologist, anything like that. I'm just giving you real life things in my life that have helped, that have continued to help. And I learned from people who do have degrees in this stuff, but I apply it. And by application, I will tell you in which area of my life I've applied it. And also, if you have any questions, you can comment. I'll be open with everything. Second thing is how to let go of anger. This is something that I probably have struggled with the most because I can harbor resentment. I can harbor anger. What's really helped me is identifying what is in and out of my control. I've said it in other podcasts. I'll say it in this podcast. I've gone through 4 layoffs in my career. Again, don't get the intro twisted. The intro, we said 2 layoffs. It's 2 layoffs until I realized, okay, I have to make some other decisions of areas to chase my greater vision in my life, even while still being employed and doing what I love in the tech space and everything. But overall in my career, I've been laid off 4 times. I used to get very angry with it, but I realized that there's some things that are outside of my control. All my layoffs were because of economic conditions where sectors were shut down, right? That's out of my control. There's nothing I can do about that. If you're angry and if you feel a level of anger, try to figure out if it's within your control or if it's not within your control. If it's not within your control, not to say that you won't be angry about it, because I think anger and some of these emotions, they're just there and emotions have to pass, but you can reframe what it is and you can sit in it and you can just allow it to be until the anger passes. If it's something that's within your control, you can take action, but try to take action by taking a deep breath, taking a step back, and making an action that will be productive and conducive to what you're trying to do. I used to just pop off at the mouth at anything, anybody, if I was angry, if I felt insecure, if somebody came at me. I'm not a yeller, but I'm like, I will just say whatever hurtful thing to just burn the house down type of thing. And so that's something where now being in a great relationship and really it's been a byproduct of if something annoys me or something doesn't sit well with me, it's approaching it the right way. And it doesn't mean that I don't feel angry about it. It doesn't mean that I don't feel annoyed about something. But if I approach it in a way that is impulsive, it's not going to allow me to let it go. It's just going to continue to breed more anger. It's like fighting fire with fire. It's like I'm just putting kerosene on this. It's just going to keep getting bigger. So in order to let go of anger, try to find actions that are actually going to be productive, that decrease the flame. That's what's helped me. I know it'll help you. It's just a tangible thing that in that moment of impulse, instead of just acting, you think. Third thing is how to let go of ego. This is an interesting thing because I can't wait in 10 years, 5 years to look back at this video and be like, wow, like I've grown so much from this. Because an ego aspect is really, for me, it's identifying with what I have, what job title, the amount of money I've made, what I'm, doing in a fitness aspect. I felt those are areas where my ego has really taken over in the past. And as you get older, things start to change in so many aspects. Relationships start to change. Your fitness level starts to change. What you want and love to do starts to change. This podcast, I was slightly fearful to do it because I was like, wait, I am going to get in front of camera and I'm going to be very blunt and honest and vulnerable about a lot of things in my shortcomings that I'm still have shortcomings on or that I have in the past. And, but in doing that or in not doing this, it would prevent me from learning. It would still keep me in that egocentric base. What you do is not who you are, right? Your mistakes also are not who you are. Your title is not who you are. The followers you have or don't have is not who you are. All of these things that we label, they're not who we are. And if you let go of that, in a weird way, you tend to have a happier life because you start detaching yourself from things that just don't matter. They really don't matter. And it allows you to focus on what actually matters. And the point in the Head and Heart quote, ego prevents you from learning from your mistakes, because you're so tied up and wrapped up to these titles and things and everything, you just don't see things clearly. When you step out of it, you're able to actually learn from your mistakes. When I stepped out of being egocentric in certain areas, and by no means am I fully egocentric. I still have an ego. I'm still working on me. God is not done with me yet, right? But I can step out and say, man, I really made mistakes over here. Wow, I really can't believe I said that to that person. I can't believe I went about this a certain way. I can't believe I reacted this way because my ego was tied into it. I was more concerned about propping myself up, making myself feel good, big and bad, than actually doing the right thing and handling things with grace or by being empathetic. If you let go of your ego, empathy creeps in at a pace that is like, I don't get mad at people anymore. It's the weirdest thing because I sit back and I'm like, if somebody says something to me sideways or whatever and it really is not warranted, I'm like, oh man, I hope that they're doing okay. I hope that things at home are going okay, or that, they have their sufficient needs, because maybe they might not have everything that they need. They might feel insecure about certain things. They might feel threatened, and it's just a threat response or whatever. And so for me, when I take ego out of it, but before, it's like, oh, no. This is my time to de-up on you a little bit, and we're going to have a conversation. It's just ego taking over for no reason, and it's not going to get us anywhere. It's going to make me feel more angry. It's going to make me, feel more bigged up for a second, and then look at it down the road and be like, that was dumb. And it could end up being conflict that I don't want or need to have. And that's in every silo of life. I keep saying these silos of life because that's going to be an underlying and underarching topic in this podcast. Looking at our silos of life. In your relationship, is your ego running it in that you're not able to be empathetic to your partner? In your job, in your business, is your ego running it so that you're basically just trying to climb the ladder and run over everybody without trying to actually grow other people? That also helps you grow yourself, right? These silos of life, where is your ego running you, that really you should take a step back and say, I can actually learn from some of the mistakes in my past, because this ego thing, it's not actually helping move me ahead. It's isolating me. Other people aren't giving me opportunities. I'm not able to get close to people. My relationship is not growing because I want to, as we circle back and do a callback to the beginning of this, because I want to show that I make money. I want to show that I have the followers. I want to show that I have the title. I want to show that I have the car. All this stuff that ultimately nobody cares about. So our fourth point is how to let go of worry. I am a worrier to a T. I'm telling you, I am such a systematic person. So I would say I am the most organized, scheduled person. I like systems. I love tech. I love building systems. I love logically walking through systems. I'm a business analyst by trade. I look at systems, I analyze everything, and then I put things in logical buckets and I walk through things with logic. That is a strong suit of mine. I can take a complex thing, break it down into individual pieces, step through individual pieces, walk through to see it in goal. That is what I do best. Now, that being said, with all of those broken down pieces and everything, I worry about every single piece. I worry that if things are going to work out, if the conditions are going to be there, if the environment's going to be built for it. Mason and I, we were recording this podcast a day later because I looked at the weather and I was worrying and I was like, oh, it's going to be raining outside, so maybe we're going to get this on the audio. So I don't know, maybe we should move it back. And I was like, okay, I don't have meetings in the morning, I can do that. And I worried for 24 hours because we had to push the podcast filming back a day. I worry, right? So the first thing to let go of it is acknowledge the fear, acknowledge that there's worry, right? And then the second thing is reframe your unrealistic thoughts. My dad always says this, and I use this: worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it gets you nowhere. I just worry about stuff that is typically likely not going to happen. And when you worry, what happens is you get tight, you don't flow, you're so focused on the future or the past or anything that it ruins your present moment and it ruins what you're trying to do. So acknowledge that worrying is going to be there, and when you see it creeping in, reframe it, and then make sure that you know that while you're worrying, you're wasting your time because you're typically worrying about something that's out of your control. I don't worry about stuff that's in my control. When I get up in the morning and I have a workout ahead of me, I'm not worried about the workout. I'm like, that's in my control, right? Now, if I go to bed and I'm like, well, man, maybe there's a detour and that's going to make me late and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, these things are out of my control. I can worry about that. But if I sit all night worrying about that, then I don't get sleep. Then on the high likelihood that I get to the gym, now I'm tired. Now I don't have a great workout. Worrying has just messed up everything that I was trying to do, and nothing's happened. So let go of worrying. Again, worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it just gets you nowhere. So think of that. Now, to close this thing out, what is our word of the day? Our word of the day is flow. Why it's flow is because the one thing that I've learned when it comes to all of this is some things you just have to let flow and allow them to be, and just sit and observe and watch yourself grow through it. When you're envious of something, let that feeling flow, reverse engineer what might be happening, and realize and really take a chance to think, are these things that I really want? Are these responsibilities that I really want to have? And really think about that, right? And then just allow things to flow. You don't have to do anything about it. When it's anger, allow anger to flow. You don't have to do anything about it. And if you do something about it, allow it to be from a place that your feelings have flowed through in a positive way that you can have some type of productive outcome. Don't make actions that don't have a productive outcome for you or the other person. That is self-sabotage. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help the other person. It doesn't help the overarching goal of what you're trying to accomplish or your life. When it comes to ego, allow it just to be sometimes. You don't have to be, so egocentric in your responses with certain things. I'm speaking to myself and to my younger self, and the advice that I would give my younger self. Sometimes you can just sit and allow it to be and allow people to do what they need to do, say what they need to say, take it with empathy and allow things to flow. And if you are going to respond, doing it in a way that is empathetic and loving in the best way. And I say that still things I'm working on, but things that I've observed and things that I've worked hard to do. And when it comes to worry, let worry just flow. It's typically something that you don't control. Let it be, because you don't want your worry about something in the future that you can't control end up ruining something that you are excited about getting to, and the thing that you didn't want to have happen didn't happen anyway. So I hope this helps. We're going to continue to get past envy, anger, ego, worry together. These are things that plague us on a daily basis sometimes. These are things that are just real life, gritty stuff that we can harbor, that we can really hold in. But let's just bring them to the forefront. Let's talk about them. Let's figure out ways that we can really get better with this. And if you have other tips or things on these topics, drop them in the comments. Let me know. This is an ongoing conversation that I love to have. And the goal with this podcast is for us to be better together, for us to do things that enrich our lives. And some things aren't going to be easy. Most things, they shouldn't be easy. They should be challenging, but we're going to do this together. So I hope that this podcast helped, and I hope that you liked it, and I will see you next time. Thank you all so much for watching the Chasing a Greater Vision podcast. If you like this podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, send it to friends, use a carrier pigeon, do whatever you have to do. We hope that this inspires you to chase your greater vision in your life and for us to continually and consistently do it together.